The year is 1519. On the vast, shimmering expanse of the Atlantic, a fleet of Spanish ships cuts through the waves, their sails billowing with the winds of ambition. Aboard these vessels are men hardened by dreams of gold, glory, and God. They are conquistadors, led by the audacious and cunning Hernán Cortés. Their destination, a mysterious land whispered about in sailors' tales, a land of immense wealth and powerful empires, a land that would soon be known to them as Mexico. As they approached the coast, the sight that greeted them was unlike anything they had ever imagined. A verdant tropical coastline stretched as far as the eye could see, a wall of impenetrable green jungle hinting at the secrets held within. The air was thick with the scent of unknown flowers and the sounds of exotic birds. For the Spanish, this was not just a new land. It was a new world, a canvas upon which they intended to paint their destiny. The anchors dropped, splashing into the turquoise waters. Small boats were lowered, and the first conquistadors made their way to the shore. The crunch of their steel-soled boots on the white sand was the first European sound to break the ancient silence of this beach. Sunlight glinted off polished steel helmets and the sharp points of their pikes. Crossbows were held at the ready, their operators scanning the dense foliage with wary eyes. These were men of iron, their faces etched with a mixture of determination, apprehension, and avarice. They were few in number, less than 600, but they carried with them the technology, the diseases, and the unyielding will of the old world. Unseen by the newcomers, hidden amongst the dense jungle canopy and from the high steps of distant temples, native eyes watched their every move. These were the warriors of the Aztec Empire, a civilization at the zenith of its power. Adorned in magnificent armor made of brightly colored feathers and woven cotton, they were a fearsome sight. Their obsidian-bladed weapons, known as Mexico-Tenochtitlán, could slice with terrifying sharpness. For now, they observed their expressions unreadable, trying to comprehend the meaning of these strange, pale-skinned men arriving in floating mountains. Word of the strangers' arrival traveled swiftly, carried by relay runners along the empire's extensive network of roads. It reached the heart of the Aztec civilization, the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan. A marvel of engineering and artistry, Tenochtitlan was a city built on an island in the middle of a lake, a Venice of the New World. Great stone pyramids dedicated to the gods pierced the sky, their steps once stained with the blood of sacrifice. Intricate canals served as the city's arteries, plied by thousands of canoes. Bustling marketplaces, or tianquitli, teemed with people from every corner of the empire, trading everything from precious jade and shimmering quetzal feathers to simple pottery and fresh produce. It was a city of 250,000 souls, the center of a vast and complex world. At the very heart of this metropolis resided the Emperor Montezuma II. A ruler seen as a semi-divine figure, he was a man of deep intellect, spirituality, and paranoia. The news of the Spaniards' arrival deeply troubled him. Aztec prophecies spoke of the return of a light-skinned, bearded god, Itzcoatl, from the east in a one-reed year. By a chilling coincidence, 1519 was a one-reed year. Was Cortés a god, or was he merely a man? This question would haunt Montezuma and dictate his every decision. Torn between fear and sacred duty, Montezuma chose a path of cautious diplomacy. He sent emissaries to greet the Spaniards, bearing breathtaking gifts of gold, silver, and intricate featherwork. He hoped these treasures would appease the newcomers and persuade them to leave. But for Cortés and his men, the gifts had the opposite effect. The sheer quality and quantity of the gold confirmed the rumors of immense wealth. It was not a deterrent. It was an invitation. The gleam of gold in their eyes overshadowed any sense of danger. Their resolve hardened. They would not leave. They would march on Tenochtitlan. The journey inland was a perilous undertaking. The conquistadors marched through dense jungles, over high mountain passes, and across arid plains. They battled not only the unfamiliar and unforgiving terrain, but also the local tribes who resisted their advance. However, Cortés was as much a diplomat as he was a soldier. He quickly understood the political landscape of the region. The Aztec Empire, for all its power, was not universally loved. It was a state built on conquest and the extraction of tribute from subjugated peoples. Cortés masterfully exploited these resentments. He forged a crucial alliance with the Tlaxcalans, a fierce and independent people who had resisted Aztec domination for decades. The Tlaxcalans saw in the Spanish a powerful ally, a weapon to be used against their hated enemies. Thousands of Tlaxcalan warriors joined the Spanish ranks, transforming Cortés' small expeditionary force into a formidable army. This alliance was the single most important factor in the eventual Spanish success. Without the Tlaxcalans, the conquest of Mexico would have been impossible. Finally, after weeks of marching, they crested a mountain pass and beheld the Valley of Mexico. The sight left them breathless. Spread out below them was a vision of civilization unlike any they had ever seen. The great Lake Tetzcoco shimmered under the sun, and in its center, connected by long straight causeways, rose the city of Tenochtitlan. Its whitewashed temples and palaces seemed to float upon the water. It was, as one conquistador later wrote, like something from a dream. On November 8th, 1519, Hernán Cortés and his army marched across the causeway and entered Tenochtitlan. Montezuma himself, adorned in splendors beyond description, came out to greet him. The two leaders met. One, a product of Renaissance Europe, clad in steel armor. The other, the divine ruler of the most powerful empire in Mesoamerica, draped in gold and feathers. It was a moment pregnant with history, a clash of two worlds, two destinies, two futures. The initial encounter was one of wary respect. Montezuma welcomed the Spaniards into the city, housing them in one of his father's palaces, but the tension was palpable. The conquistadors were in awe of the city's wealth, but they were also horrified by the Aztec religion, particularly the practice of human sacrifice. They saw the devil at work in the blood-soaked temples and the rows of skulls displayed on zompantly racks. For the Aztecs, the Spaniards were an unnerving and disruptive presence, their motives and their power a terrifying unknown. This fragile peace could not last. In a daring and audacious move, Cortés took Montezuma hostage, placing the emperor under house arrest within his own palace. He hoped to rule the empire through its captive leader. This act of treachery ignited the simmering resentment of the Aztec people and their nobility. The situation became a powder keg waiting for a spark. That spark came when Cortés was forced to leave the city to deal with a rival Spanish force. In his absence, his lieutenant, Pedro de Alvarado, fearing an uprising, ordered a massacre of Aztec nobles who were celebrating a religious festival. The city erupted in fury. When Cortés returned, he found Tenochtitlan in open revolt. The conquistadors were trapped. What followed was the Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. Under the cover of darkness, the Spanish and their Tlaxcalan allies attempted to flee the city. But they were discovered. Aztec warriors attacked from all sides, from canoes on the lake and from the rooftops of the city. The causeway became a scene of utter chaos. Men, weighed down by the gold they had looted, were cut down or drowned in the lake. It was a disastrous retreat. Cortés lost more than half of his men and nearly all of his treasure. He is said to have wept at the sight of his shattered army. But Cortés was not a man to accept defeat. He retreated to the friendly territory of Tlaxcala, where he regrouped. His resolve was unbroken. He would not just conquer Tenochtitlan. He would destroy it. He ordered the construction of a fleet of small warships, designed to control the lake. He gathered reinforcements, and his Tlaxcalan allies, their hatred for the Aztecs stronger than ever, rallied to his side. In Yihuari, Cortés returned to the Valley of Mexico. This time it was not for diplomacy, it was for war. He laid siege to Tenochtitlan, cutting off the causeways and using his new fleet to blockade the city from receiving food and water. For 80 days, the city held out under the leadership of its new, defiant emperor, Cuauhtémoc. The fighting was brutal, house to house, street by street. The canals ran red with blood. Starvation, and, even more devastatingly, a smallpox epidemic brought by the Europeans, ravaged the city's defenders. The disease, to which the natives had no immunity, killed far more Aztecs than Spanish swords ever could. Finally, on August 13, 1521, the last pockets of resistance were crushed. Cuauhtémoc was captured, and the great city of Tenochtitlan fell. What was once a vibrant necropolis was now a smoking ruin. The Aztec Empire, a civilization that had flourished for centuries, was no more. On its ashes, the Spanish would build a new city, Mexico City, the capital of the colony of New Spain. The fall of Tenochtitlan was more than just a military victory. It was a pivotal moment in world history, a cataclysmic event that forever altered the course of two continents. It marked the beginning of 3 centuries of Spanish rule in Mexico, initiating a complex and often painful process of cultural fusion and conflict that shaped the nation as it is today. The story of Cortés and Montezuma is a dramatic saga of ambition, greed, misunderstanding, violence, and profound, irreversible change. It's a story that continues to resonate, a powerful reminder of the collision of worlds that occurred on the shores of Mexico 500 years ago. Thanks for watching, and if you found this journey into the past compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most dramatic moments.